Madam Rajavi, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure and honor to talk to you today. In keeping with the theme, solidarity with the women of Iran in their struggle to secure basic fundamental human and gender rights, it is important for us all to remember and draw strength that despite the adversity we confront in our crusade to secure our inalienable human rights, we shall and will not capitulate to the torture, violence, and barbarism brought upon us, just like the women of Iran are experiencing and are currently being subjected to. In capturing the history of our liberation struggle against apartheid, it is usually the faces of men that are presented as the heroes to the world. But it was often women who embraced the idea of mass campaigns and went to jail for their protests long before men did. Alongside their men comrades, women endured unimaginable loss, humiliation, detention, interrogation, banning orders, house arrest, and murder in their struggle for dignity, equality, and freedom. Under the current dictatorship in Iran, unable to attend school, unable to work unless permitted by their husbands, and were mandated to wear hijabs whenever in public. This is despite Iranian women being at the forefront of the revolution. In a piece done by CBC Radio, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, in March 2019 titled The Stolen Revolution, Iranian Women of 1979, centered on how the regime had betrayed the women of Iran. Mere weeks after Ayatollah Khomeini took power, Iranian women marched to show their fury at the new regime, which now seemed to be turning against them. The rallying cry, which brought tens of thousands of Iranian women together onto the streets of Tehran on March 8, 1979 was, "We didn't have a revolution to go backwards." The women supporters of the main opposition, the Mujahideen-e-Khalq, who are Muslims but were at the forefront of defending the right of women to choose their own attire. Suppression of women in Iran has been institutionalized. The mullahs' Sharia laws have been used to oppress, subjugate, humiliate, abuse, undermine, and strip the women of Iran their dignity, just like apartheid did to the black women of South Africa. The genocide of some 30,000 young men and women who were killed because of their political beliefs against the system. We call upon the international community to condemn and demonize such acts against the many lives lost. They need to support the people of Iran against this brutal regime, that we must acknowledge the brave women and men who have laid their lives at risk against the system. The National Council of Resistance of Iran, led by its president-elect Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, is the Iranian people's opposition to the current regime. It is a 4-decade-old coalition of democratic forces that have persevered against the mullahs' fascism. Mrs. Rajavi advocates a 10-point plan for the future of Iran. This impressive plan affirms the people's sovereignty in a republic founded on universal suffrage and pluralism, supports social, religious, and political freedoms, seeks justice for those massacred and prohibits torture and the death penalty, ensures gender equality, pursues the independence of the judiciary, implores equal opportunities within a free trade market economy, and provides for a non-nuclear Iran as well as the protection of the environment. The regime ruling Iran must be held to account by world governments and the United Nations for its heinous crimes against humanity. Now is time to hold Ibrahim Raisi to account for his role in the 1988 massacre of MEK supporters and other political prisoners. Now is not the time for silence and inaction. We must forge a way forward together and find a collective voice against Iran's regime for the freedom and prosperity of this generation and the next. As my grandmother remarked, there is no longer anything I can fear. There is nothing the government has not done to me. There isn't any pain I haven't known. As the mother of the nation, she showed strength and the invisible spirit to stand against a brutal, racist, and oppressive system. In conclusion, what I have tried to emphasize is if we as women want to drive meaningful change together to bring about human rights and equality, we can only achieve this if we bring about meaningful, systemic, structural, and prevalent societal changes, which requires a paradigm shift in our societal system and belief system. I thank you. Amandla, Amandla.